For part 2, we're going to look at the functions of the radio. As I pointed out in the first part, full disclosure, Retevis sent me a pair of these radios free of charge to review. So, first of all, we'll look at the port. Get that out of the way. It has the Kenwood standard speaker mic port, and by the way, that's the same not only as Kenwood ham radios, it's also the same as Baofeng radios, UV5R, UV82, and so on. So if you have any of those, your accessories will work with this radio as well. Okay, the next control is the power and volume control.
Power on. Zone 2. 5.
Okay, now what that does, and we'll point out the other knob on the top, is the channel selector.
6. 5.
So, when you turn it on, it says power on, zone whatever, zone 2 in this case, and the channel number. Okay, now that is that's something I'm familiar with, because some other radios that I have, commercial radios, specifically the Kenwood 90 series, like the TK290 for example, has that type of setup where it's got a channel selector on top with 16 positions. And by the way, as you can see, it doesn't have a display, but it doesn't need one either. So you've got 16 channels, and you've got 8 zones, which gives you 128 channels. So you've got 16 channels in zone 1, 16 channels in zone 2, and so on, all the way through to zone 8. Zones can also be considered, another name for it is banks of channels. And like I said, the 90 series Kenwoods have the same type of setup, so I'm familiar with it. And by the way, I've noticed that not all of the channels are set up. Not all of them are programmed, so you don't out of the box have 128 channels. You have the capability of 128 channels, but there seems to be, I haven't counted how many channels you actually have programmed from the factory, but there are enough of them to make it useful for most people's uses. And I will at a later date go in and program some more. But moving on from that, on the side we've got push to talk, which is how you transmit, and demonstrate that
Power
real quick.
On. Zone 2.
See that LED came on, and when I powered it up, and that shows you that it's powering up. It also lights red when you transmit, and when it receives, it lights green. So what it'll do is, even if you don't hear anything, if it's doesn't have the proper tone for what your channel's set up as, it will light green, but you won't hear anything. But you'll be able to see that there's some activity on the channel. Okay, moving on. So, as I pointed out, we got push to talk here, and we've got the top button and bottom button, and those are programmable. Each can be programmed for 2 functions, and those functions are accessed by either a short push or a long push. Now from the factory, it says that the lower button is a short push, is what they call permanent, permanent monitor. And by permanent monitor they mean monitor toggle, because there are two different ways you can do monitor. And basically what monitor does, it disables the tone squelch. So if you've got either a tone squelch or a digital squelch set up so that it doesn't hear anything that doesn't have that that tone or that digital signal, digital code, you won't hear anything. If it doesn't have the proper tone or, like I said, code. So what you can do is you activate monitor and you'll hear whatever's on the frequency. Say you notice that the green light's coming on but you're not hearing anything. So you can toggle monitor on and you'll hear it. And there are two ways that monitor can be set up. One is momentary, and on radios in general I mean. One is momentary, where it monitors as long as you're holding the switch down. The other is toggle, where you activate the switch and it puts it in monitor mode and stays in it until you deactivate it. That's what I prefer, and that's the only thing that will work with this, because it's got two functions. So if you were to hold it down, it will go on to the next function. So the first function is short press. According to the manual, factory default is toggle monitor or permanent monitor. Long push, and I'll demonstrate that.
Power on. Zone 2. 3.
Okay. Now I don't think that the monitor is actually set up, even though it says it's the factory default, because a short press doesn't announce anything. But a long press does change zones.
Zone 3. 3. Zone 4. 3.
Okay, now that tone lets you know that that particular channel is not programmed.
2.
That one's not either.
1.
I don't guess any of them are in this
5.
bank.
3. Zone 5. 3. Zone 6. 3. Zone 7. 3. Zone 8. 3. Zone 1. 3.
See, a lot of them aren't programmed.
Zone 2. 3.
So as you can see, what it does is it cycles through all 8 zones and then back to 1. So it just, there's no way to go back. You've got to go all the way through. Got to go through all of them. And some of my commercial radios actually have 2 buttons that are assigned to that, so you can go up or down. But of course some of those also have a lot more zones. With only 8 zones, this works fine. Okay, so the top switch is a short push, is Vox.
Vox on.
So Vox means hello. You see that? You got to hold it close for it to work.
Vox off.
But what that does is it activates the transmitter without having to press anything. So it's just voice controlled transmit. And that works well, like if you have this on the dash of your car and you have an earpiece mic. So whenever you talk, it'll automatically transmit. Okay, so the factory default long press setting for the top button is a completely worthless, dubious feature that you usually find in radios of this type. Fortunately, you don't have to use it, and even more fortunately, you can assign that switch to something else. So let's look at the side key, side switch functions that can be programmed. Permanent monitor or monitor toggle, zone selection, repeater, and talk around. So basically it would toggle between repeater offset and simplex, and that might be a good function. Well, it can be a good function. It depends on how you program it. Okay, battery query function, scan, Vox, local alarm, which was that, worthless feature we just looked at. So, and it says factory default, long press activates local alarm, short press activates Vox for the top key, the bottom key, long press activates zone selection, short press activates permanent monitor. So what I would do when I go into this thing and program it, I will I'll actually activate the short press permanent monitor or short press monitor toggle, because like I said, that sounds good, but it doesn't seem to be programmed that way. Nothing seems to be programmed there, but that is the way I want it programmed. And on the top one, of course, we're going to dump the local alarm, and I don't know about Vox. I might keep Vox active, maybe, but I don't think I'll do it as a short press. Now, I'll probably do Vox as a long press if I keep Vox at all, which I might not. Battery query function, I don't think I need that. Zone selection, we've already got that on the bottom switch, and permanent monitor. So basically what we've got that we don't have programmed from the factory is repeater and talk around or scan. So I don't know, I might just I could either do with the repeater and talk around, I could either set up one zone for simplex, also known as talk around. It's what Kenwood calls talk around, and this seems to be patterned after Kenwood, as most of these type of radios are. And so I could set up one zone to be just simplex or talk around frequencies, and another zone set up as repeater frequencies. That way I don't have to toggle between talk around and repeater. And for 900 megahertz, that's what I generally like to do, because there aren't many repeaters anyway. So, having the same frequency in two channels, one as a repeater and one as a simplex, is not a problem. So I might do that. But the other thing that I do kind of want is scan. And that way I can listen for activity on any of the channels that I have programmed. So anyway, back to what it actually is programmed for out of the box. So if you don't want to go in and program it with the computer, this is what it does. Long press is worthless on the top. Just gives you that stupid alarm function, which does nothing. It's just like the flashing light on some of the other radios. Short press. What did short press give you?
Vox.
Vox, yeah.
Vox off.
So that's what you got, and that can be useful for hands-free driving or whatever. And the bottom, of course, like I said, I don't think monitor is programmed into it, but long press on the bottom does change zones, and that's very functional. That's something you definitely need unless you only want 16 channels. And like I said, plenty of channels are programmed into it.
15, 16, 11, 6, 7, 1,
I think that
2,
the
3.
first two banks or first two zones have all 16 channels programmed, and the rest of them might not have any programmed. I haven't checked all of them, but that seems to be the case. So thanks for watching, and with part 3 and final, we're going to put it to the test.